Hi, my name is Faith Rice, and I will be presenting the Oral History Association, also known as OHA. Now, before we get started, I want to give a little background and history on OHA. It is a nonprofit organization under the law of New York, and it was established in 1966. The person that you see to our right, this handsome young man, he is the executive director, Cliff Kunn. He works for the Department of History at the Georgia State University. Um, there are other officers and councils a part of this association, but they're located in different places across the U.S., from West Virginia to California. Before we go directly into discussing OHA as an association, I wanted to go over a little bit about their definition of what oral history is. One of the things they say is that oral history is a method of recording and preserving oral testimony. It is an audio or a video recording, so it doesn't just have to be an MP3 or recording, but it's very similar to kind of what we're doing right now, where I am showing you a video and you can also hear my voice, or you'll see a video of both the interviewee and the interviewer conducting an interview based on relevant past or historical events. It is considered to be a first person account. So usually the interview is conducted on a person who was actually there in the event to see the happenings, or actually had some connection to someone that was directly affected by the event itself. It is a contribution to an understanding of the past. So much like our historical textbooks, um, oral history is used as well as a tool to understand past events or historical events. It is a verbal document, so the voice is being used. There is talking, there is conversation, and it is made to be available to users, researchers, and public in different forms, whether it be video format or MP3, as I mentioned earlier. Now that we understand or have a general understanding of what oral history is, now let's talk a little bit about OHA's mission or objective as an organization. One of their objectives is to bring together all persons interested in oral history. So, as a means of collecting and interpreting human memories, people who are interested in these things, they want to increase the communication amongst people who are interested in collecting and interpreting human memories. So that goes into the third objective. The fourth objective is to encourage standards of excellence, and this is directly pertaining to like the interviews that are conducted. So maintaining specific principles and procedures in order to maintain the integrity of oral history itself. They want to guide and advise those that are concerned with oral documentation. So there are professional links, networks, connections they offer as a guidance, or for those who are interested to seek advice from people who are already experienced or have already conducted research within this field. Also, their procedures and their standards of excellence is also can be used as a guide. They also want to recognize outstanding achievement in oral history. So they do this by presenting awards and granting grants to people who have done outstanding research using oral history as a method, or have done outstanding research within oral history itself. They also want to stimulate and publish the results of this outstanding research and the techniques and uses of oral history. Um, so they have review books and blogs and things like that that are published that pertain specifically to techniques and uses of oral history. They want to maintain relations with others in allied disciplines. So you don't have to be just a student or you don't have to be just a professor. But if you're an artist that is interested in using oral history, they want to cultivate relations and alliances with other disciplines, such as arts. In their mission to collect and interpret oral history. They also want to cooperate with other professional and international organizations, and they do this by providing a link and hosting events with other professional and international organizations. And these events kind of go back into participating in local, national, and international projects with mutual goals and interests in collecting, interpreting, preserving oral history. So overall, their OHSA mission is to bring together various people from different backgrounds, cultures, and disciplines who are interested in oral history and help to encourage standards of excellence and guide them and advise them and create an avenue for communication amongst them. So some of the principles and procedures, as I mentioned in the last slide, um, will be presented here. The first principle is that they allow the narrators to give their story to the fullness that they desire. These principles directly pertain to the oral history interview itself. So allowing the narrator to tell their story until they think their story is complete is important. They ensure that those narrators voluntarily give their consent to be interviewed. And this can be done orally over the recording where the narrator says, I give my permission, or this can be done in written form where the narrator signs a consent form. They also believe that believe in allowing interviewees to hold the copyright to their interviews. So, interviewees, also known as narrators, have complete legal rights over the interview itself. And the only way that changes is that they decide amongst themselves that I want to transfer these rights to another organization or institution. Oral historians should be striving for intellectual honesty during these interviews. And when we say intellectual honesty, they mean maintaining the integrity of the story that's being told. So the story, one, needs to be historically significant, and the questions that are being asked should be historically significant. And it is asked that the interviewer avoids stereotypes, misrepresentations, and manipulations of the narrator's words when conducting the interview. Narrators are identified by name to help with the context of the story so that who's ever listening or acquires this oral history piece of this piece of oral history, I'm sorry, um have a better understanding of the story that's being told. There are exceptions to this that if you decide to remain anonymous, this has to be agreed and negotiated amongst you and the interviewer. Another principle is that they want to protect the accessibility and usability of the interview, which kind of goes into using the best recording equipment available. making sure that this interview is accessible to whoever might want to use it. And the best way to, one of the best ways to ensure that is to make sure the recording equipment that you use is up to par. And then once you have the right recording equipment and the interview is conducted with quality, placing it on either online or putting it in a DVD format or MP3 format is also really important. Avoid making promises that cannot be met. So do not promise that, this is for the interviewer. Do not promise the interviewee or the narrator that they may have control over the interpretation of this piece of information or the presentation of this piece of information, or don't promise them they will get material benefits from doing this interview. And it's also important that you don't promise an open-ended relationship with the interviewer after you conduct the interview, because there's no guarantees. So what does OHA do? They provide grants for research, and the picture of the individuals to your right are the recent 2013 winners of the Emerging Crisis Oral History Research Fund. They are Carrie and Michael Klein, and they proposed a project on the oil and gas rush in the Marcellus shale fields of West Virginia. They also have awards programs in which they give awards for various research within oral history or research using oral history. And they give out article awards, book awards, non-print format awards, Voice of the People awards, and teaching awards to people who have done outstanding research involving oral history. They also host annual meetings and conference workshops, and they give their members 8 different committees to join. You don't have to join these committees, but if you are interested in being a part of any of these committees, some of the committees that they have is the Committee of Diversity, Committee of Education, Committee of Finance, Committee of International Reach, Publications Committee, the nominating committees for the awards and the grants, state and regional forum committee, and then they have a scholarship committee as well. So now the question, now they have, I'm sorry, so now what type of publications and useful resources do they offer? They have, their main publication is the Oral History Review, which publishes research and information. Then they have the pamphlet series, which equips people like me as a student or people like professors on how to use oral history within the classroom or for research. They also provide a newsletter and an online blog, which gives us updated information on research or findings or events. The website contains oral history events, workshops, and institutes. These are all links. Links to oral history centers and collections such as the British Library Sound Archive. Links to regional and international oral history organizations. And then a listserv of scholars and professionals so that you may get in touch with somebody who has more of a professional intake with oral history. Links to guides on doing oral history, information on institutional review boards, which basically their objective is to regulate research on human subjects, and they talk a lot about like academic freedom. So if you want information on that, they also provide a link for that as well. So now, again, the question is, why should I join OHA? But considering all of the resources, there are several other benefits of being a part of this organization. Some of these benefits include international membership. They have an outreach for Canada, India, Austria, Montreal, Spain, and the UK. So you can connect with people across the world. They provide professional guidance. They provide a collegial environment for sharing research using oral history or on oral history. They have useful guidelines and evaluation standards for oral history interviews. And then some of the direct member benefits in which they present on their website are access to print and digital versions of their journal, access to the digital archive of their journal. So the most recent print you can get in paperback, but if you're interested in past prints, then you have access to that as a member. A 20% discount on books published by Oxford University Press, and that's a lot of textbooks. So yeah. The OHA newsletter mailed 3 times a year. Discounted registration for the OHA annual meeting. And so, how do you become a member of OHA? You can join online via the Oxford Journal's website, and they have a link directly there. You can join by mail, and here I present an address. Or you can join by phone. You can call them at 1-800-852-7323. And then when you apply, you do have to complete a membership form, and you do have to make a payment. So the individual memberships can range from $70 to $1,000 yearly, depending on the benefits in which you're looking to receive. And then the institutional membership can range from $172 to $182 yearly. And if you have any problems or any questions with joining, or any questions about the organization that isn't presented in either my presentation or on the website, you can contact OHA with the information located at the very bottom of the slide. And that concludes my presentation on the Oral History Association. I have also provided a handout for this organization that kind of summarizes everything I went over in this presentation. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.